this video, we're going to be reviewing the global settings for print and wide format calculators. To get to this menu, we're going to go ahead and go to Admin, Global Settings, and then click on the Print Wide Format menu item inside of Global Settings. Now this screen has a combination of print calculator and wide format calculator and simple wide format calculator settings. So we're just going to go through them line by line and explain what each one is. So our first item here is enable simple wide format round off. So what this is in the simple wide format calculator, you can choose to have your pricing results rounded up to the nearest dollar. Enabling this will enable that functionality. Enable advanced wide format old calculations. So what this does is it allows you, if you're a legacy wide format calculator user, you could continue to use our old formulas by enabling this checkbox. Print estimate markup percent. So this is the default markup for our print calculators. So any value you put here will be the value that gets populated in the print calculator if you don't have one defined in, say, a print template. Add print item default service. So this is some legacy functionality that some people still use, but if you wanted to launch the calculator through the quick links, you could select what service you wanted to launch the calculator into. Print calculator default spoilage field. So you can make the default spoilage for the print calculator run off percent or by physical count. So it needs to be one or the other, so you can choose that here. Print calculator price matching. So enable this enables the price matching functionality inside the print calculator. Default print calculator bleed. So this allows you to define a default bleed on the print calculator in cases where one is not defined in the template. So the next few fields let us enable editing of some particular calculated fields. So number up, signatures, parent to run sheet, and total plates and parent sheet. So checking any of these will allow you to edit those particular fields. We don't generally recommend this because if you make those fields editable, they will not automatically recalculate when you change the specs of the print calculator. So this is something that you definitely want to do knowing that it takes a little bit more attention to use the calculator correctly if any of these are enabled. A lot of times if you run into problems where you can't figure out why you're not getting the right price, it's usually because one of these fields is not recalculating. Minimum markup percent, so you can define what the minimum markup percent for any print calculator would be. If this threshold is not met, we'll automatically bump it up inside the calculator. If it's set at 0, then it disables that functionality. Ink coverage default. So if we wanted to define a default coverage for our offset inks, we could do that here. Legacy offset ink calculations. So we recently upgraded our ink formulas, but if you wanted to continue to use our old style formulas, you can do that by checking this checkbox. We also have upgraded our cutting calculations. This includes our new visual imposition tool. So if you wanted to disable that tool and continue to use our old cutting calculation, then you could click on this checkbox. And then we have our default ink square inches per pound, and you can set that for coded and uncoded. It looks like one thing I forgot to mention here, sets of. So this enables the sets of field. This is generally used when if you do things like padding, sets of is a useful field to enable. This lower section here for pre-cutting and finish cutting, this has to do with defaults for our visual imposition tool on our sheet print calculator. So this allows us to predefine whether or not each of these selections would be enabled or disabled or checked or unchecked when the calculator loads. So things like Dutch cut, cut multiple pieces, align, center, horizontal or vertical, trim inside, horizontal or vertical for pre-cutting, and then additional things like grip top, grip left, match grain for our finish cutting. So this section just allows you to predefine values so you don't have to fill them out every time. And we'll see how these selections affect the print calculator in the demonstration videos for each of the respective calculators.